You want to do that?
Yeah.
We'll talk about weight loss and athletic performance.
Sure. First video.
As per our little pamphlets that have the wrong pricing on them, but that doesn't matter because that's not what we're focusing on today.
Oh, are you starting?
When do we not start? I think we're just on all the time, and then we eventually will just clip it and make it seem like, oh wow, these guys are great at what they do, but really I just start talking. Yeah, so to start this video, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be chatting about something that gets asked not super frequently, floating being able to help with things like weight loss and athletic performance. Do you ever get asked this question?
Well, I mean, here and there, yeah. But
here and there, yeah. It honestly doesn't happen. And I mean, the way we worded things too is we don't go out of our way to say, like, the big things that we say floating helps with is just overall relaxation and stress relief. And of course, everything that's like the top of the little pyramid here, that everything, the umbrella, that all the rain flows down the sides. It was raining the other day when I thought it was going to be snowing, so that's where that thought came from.
It sounds relevant.
So relevant. I'm trying to bring current events into these videos, JP.
Please don't bring current events into any of our videos.
That's smart. That's actually a very smart decision. For those of you who didn't know, I used to do like personal training and like all that kind of cool stuff prior to doing this. And it was something I seen a lot, is that when I had clients from all different like ages, walks of life, you name it, like younger athletes, older athletes, and also just the middle age who have office jobs or not very active jobs, I always found that it was like progress always got stopped and hindered when people's stress got out of control. It wasn't so much the eating or not working out or not sleeping, it was that stress affected all three. And when it was kind of my job being paid to look at all those different factors and seeing them suffer, stress was always like that foundational like corner piece of chaos, as I called it. So while I keep looking down here, we have things, and I'm realizing too why we probably don't get as many questions is because we're just smart with how we word it. We don't say floating helps you lose weight and floating increases your athletic performance, because the way that we look at it is it can, but it's like supplementing. How I would start with all this is when it comes down to either weight loss or gaining muscle, losing fat, or increasing athletic performance, the big core things that affect those pieces of the puzzle are going to be what you're doing for training or working out or exercise, what you're doing for eating and staying hydrated, and the third one is sleep. Those, and then actually the fourth one, which is where floating ties into, is managing stress levels. And those are your four core things. Anything outside of that, above that, below that, all of them are just supplemental. And that includes floating. So even though floating can affect things like reducing pain, so your training sessions are a little bit easier and you don't have as much pain in certain areas of your body, or the fact that floating can actually help you have better quality sleep at night, as well as reduce stress, it is a supplement to your core kind of foundations for increasing either performance or helping your body either gain muscle or lose fat. But just so that we're super clear, as I think it just needs to be stated, you're not going to walk into a float tank and come out 30 pounds lighter, or run a 40-yard dash 2 seconds faster. What it can do, and how we word it here, we'll just pop it in there. It says stress hormones like cortisol are not very helpful when it comes to healthy weight loss. I remember writing this one very late night. As it signals our body to store fat, a float can help get our stress under control. So that's where, if you were to expect to come in to floating to help you lose weight and or increase your athletic performance, it's not going to do it without the support of you, of doing other things in your life that are beneficial for that. And so floating genuinely can help mitigate stress so that maybe you're more motivated to watch either what you eat or to train a different way or to stay consistent. But if you're only depending on something like floating and then you get pissed that it's not actually helping out, well, that's what this video is all about. So
What can you tell, I guess, the athlete that's like, hey, I'm an athlete. Cool. I do athletic stuff.
I do athletic things.
I want to improve my athletic things.
Yeah.
And thereby become a better athlete and be better than the other athletes that I'm athletic against.
I would really like you to just put that whole thing and fill up the entire screen with one giant hyphenated sentence. An athlete up and coming or current should be focusing on is better sleep, quality training, quality nutrition, and managing stress, especially around competition. Before floating becomes like because we do have quite a few athletes, professional and semi-professional, and even those in high school and college, who come and use floating. The ones that do extraordinarily well already, like floating is a supplement to their already solid foundation of those, 3 or 4 pillars. Once you have a decent handle on your training, sleep, nutrition, and stress, floating is gonna help the most with stress and sleep. It will help with the recovery from your training, but again, a lot of that doesn't come from floating by itself. It comes from having a better sleep at night, which floating can supplement. The stress, though, that is probably one of the most interesting ones, is that I don't want to screw around with the actual percentages and data that have had in studies, but essentially an athlete who just finishes a competition or a game has elevated stress hormones in their bloodstream for I think up like 24 to 48 hours. It might even be slightly longer than that. So we've had a lot of success with athletes actually coming after like a football or hockey game. So we have people with the Oilers and the Eskimos who come and float with us. And they've had quite a bit of success coming in floating either that night or the next day after a game, which has actually helped them kind of relax, because when you have a ton of stress hormones in your body, right after competition, you generally don't sleep as well the following night or two. And especially if you're playing multiple games in a week and you're traveling a lot, it just becomes a problem. You can do it, before a game to help kind of calm your nerves, relax yourself so that you're a little bit more kind of in the zone. But the other piece of it is actually timing it around really intense training sessions in the off season, or plan it around your competitions or games or matches, however you like to put it.
The second question I would ask is something about the second thing you said, along the lines of losing weight.
Yeah.
Like, are you basically saying that because you have a lowered stress level, it's going to help aid in the things you do in your life to lose weight?
I think the float industry as a whole is really good for not, trying to talk about stuff in terms of weight loss and how floating helps. Like, nobody's going there and saying, you want to lose weight, come for a float. You'll go in and come out and lose like 5 pounds right off the bat, because that's just not true. But the way that I've always explained it, and why it's like kind of a super indirect conversation or a super indirect effect, or in the word I like, kind of like the influence it has, is especially if you're somebody, including myself, that when you're stressed, you like to eat, right? So especially if you're trying to lose weight and you're on a good routine, but then stress kicks into gear. Not only is stress bad for losing weight, because as you have like cortisol in your bloodstream and other stress hormones in your bloodstream, it's actually a lot harder for your body. And again, we're not going to treat this as science time with Matt, but cortisol wreaks havoc on the body when it's there for long periods of time. Cortisol and stress hormones are great for certain survival mechanisms.
It's like a reactionary.
It's not good when it's chronic. It's super important when we need to get out of a dangerous situation. It's not great when it's chronic and this light amount over time for a very long period of time. We'll put it this in simple terms. Maybe we'll post some kind of articles underneath that people can look at it, so I'm not lying. When you have a ton of stress in your body, especially in the form of cortisol, it's way easier for your body to store and keep fat. Whereas when you're not as stressed, it's a lot more prone, especially when you're doing all your other habits and routines, it's a lot more prone to let it go. And we're not going to bring Frozen into
No, not this time. We already used that gig.
I always thought about when I was looking through ideas for videos today and I seen that one, it was always like my first thought is like, I just want to stay away from that because it's such a potential sensitive topic to talk about.
If you could say something to end the video, what would you say?
I would say, if you had any other questions about floating that you'd like us to answer, or you had some follow-up interests or curiosities about what we talked in this video, then hit us up in comments wherever you're watching from. And until then, you tune in to our next video where we pick a topic last minute and then just ad lib and talk about it with each other.